Rookie of the year, there is one name that comes to mind for everybody, I believe, Grady Dick. Sam, is there anybody else you want to throw into the picture?
Case and Wallace, as I cheat and look at Vegas odds. No, Mr. Wembanyama will be the natural, obvious pick. I will get that name out of the way.
He's not my pick.
I didn't. We're
You
not
know
doing
what?
picks, Slater.
You
We're
know
not
what?
doing
Screw it.
picks.
Screw it. No, Slater gave it away. Slater, do it. Do it. Because I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree.
Chet Holmgren.
He's awesome.
He's
He's
my
like
pick.
awesome.
Oh,
He
here
hasn't
come
missed
the
a shot.
OKC boys. Look at this.
Dude, he
Hey,
has
Play the
get in
not.
cowboy
here. Let's
music,
go.
Schlecht.
I don't know. I don't know
Schlecht's
if
got a
it's
lot of
gonna.
cowboy hats. He just did a bit in OKC with hats and like talking about Oklahoma things. I didn't know I was getting ganged up on here.
You know
I
what
don't
Chet
know.
Holmgren gets that Wembanyama won't get? I mean, we'll see what happens, but
Votes
playoff
from you.
level, winning basketball potentially, like late in the season. Hey, he's contributing to a winner, right? That was some of the argument for Keegan Murray, who obviously didn't win it last year and shouldn't have, but
Good argument though. Good job. Just kidding.
you're part of a component of a winner potentially, and what he's looked awesome. I mean, that's mostly what I want to talk about. Like Chet Holmgren has looked incredible in the preseason on both ends of the floor. I thought he was going to be not as advanced and ready offensively as he has looked, and then defensively. I mean, you see him block the Lillard three or jumper the other day. I don't think it was a three, and
Yeah,
call him too
step back on the
small.
right side. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he called him too small. And it's that I saw him do a prime time celebration like the Dion one. And it's not even just what he's doing on the court, but the way he's acting as he's doing it. It's like, okay, he's ready. He thinks he's ready at least.
Yeah, here's my prediction. I think it's gonna be like an all-time epic rookie of the year showdown. And we're gonna look back on this as like one of the best like 1-2 rookie of the year ballots in the history of the league. These dudes are both already awesome. Like people called that Warriors Kings game the game of the preseason. Mm-mm. Game of the preseason was the first half of that Spurs Thunder game where Wembanyama and Chet played against each other, were talking shit to each other, where Chet was tweeting after the game about how Wembanyama was throwing elbows and that was the only reason he was scoring on him. Chet scored. Yes, a headbutt. Sorry. Chet scored like 20 points in 20 minutes. Wembanyama scored like 20 points in 20 minutes. They're both pulling off crazy moves. Chet Holmgren in the preseason, I know we absolutely should not get caught up on preseason numbers in either direction, but you watch it and you're like, holy crap. He shot 62% from the field, 56% from three, and he scored 18 points in 21 minutes a game.
Those shooting percentages seem sustainable, Fred. I think that is going to be his season shooting percentages.
But you watch them happen, and you're like, wait, he's pulling up off the dribble, like he's going to pull up off the dribble out of pick and rolls, like he's going to do that, and he's an extraordinary talent at his size. And by the way, defensively, Wembanyama is also awesome defensively. And Slater, you mentioned this, but I really think this is where Chet missing the extra year, and maybe Andrew should weigh in on this, but I really think this is where Chet missing last year, but still getting to be at NBA practices, be around NBA players, learn NBA defense, learn NBA offense, learn the culture, learn how it works. It shows in his game. Like we knew he was going to be a good defender, but he's like a quick rotator right off the bat. Super rare for a rookie.
Is this going to turn into one of those Donovan Mitchell, Ben Simmons rookie of the years? Remember, like Donovan was really anti, like he shouldn't be even eligible. He got the extra year.
Yes, that's actually exactly what it's going to be. That's the perfect comparison. That's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I love that y'all want to pump up your Thunder, but you don't got to act like Victor didn't do anything in this preseason. 15, 23, and 20
highlights.
15, 23, and 20 on the scoring side with a combined, let's see, can't do the math, 62 minutes total. That's pretty good. Points per 48. 6 blocks. It'll be a fun matchup. Scoot Henderson would like a word. He didn't show out to that degree early in this preseason, but since we're doing the whole throw names out, how deep is this list, guys? I guess in terms of the individuals that you think could actually win the whole thing, is it just Victor and Chet in your eyes? Or are you still giving Scoot or anybody else a sniff at this thing? Maybe Brandon Miller?
I think
Scoot is
yeah.
I think Scoot is really, really good. I think what we're gonna see from him, because he hasn't really developed the fully consistent jump shot yet, is we're gonna see him putting up probably really awesome counting numbers on somewhat inefficient stats, kind of like Cade Cunningham in his rookie year. And I think the world of his future. I think he's going to be freaking awesome. The Blazers are going to have shooting, and they have a lot of good, like, they're a really interesting young core. But, like, you're going to have like DeAndre Ayton down low. Jeremy Grant absolutely hits threes, but like if Scoot shows off to be an awesome driver and stuff, people will help off of Grant and onto him. And he's going to be playing with a lot of young, inexperienced, developing players who aren't going to know like the science of spacing the floor next to him. He's going to be driving into crowds. Like the other two guys are so awesome. And like Slater said, like Chet's going to be doing it on a good team. And Wembanyama is just absolutely spectacular. Like maybe Scoot's in at number 3, but I wouldn't put him in that top 2.
I do wonder, as the games pile up on, those thinner bodies of Wembanyama and Chet, and also they go against, regular season level intensity, like good power forward wings. I think they're going to get guarded a lot of times with like wings that can get under them and really push them around a little bit. Or when they face bigger centers who are just throwing them around in the paint on a, 4 games in 7 nights type basis. Like, I think some inefficiency is coming for them too. I think some bad nights are coming. So yeah, I think that could open the door for like a Scoot. I think the Thompson twins should be mentioned as just like, man, they look really good. They just I don't think they're going to score enough to be in this conversation.
Well, what about, and I like the way you guys framed the Victor and Chet combo, and that face-off is going to be a ton of fun. What about the idea that in OKC, that's, SGA's team, and in terms of being deferential, like once the regular season hits, like Chet's going to have to remember whose team that is. In San Antonio, meanwhile, Keldon Johnson led this person scoring, and most of America and the basketball world doesn't know who he is. So as far as opportunity, I would probably give the nod to Victor there in terms of just taking over on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Chet's also like, when you watch last year's Thunder team, what do you say that like first unit could use the most? It could use a shooter. It could use anyone who can defend in the paint. Like their center rotation last year was such a problem. It was the biggest problem on that roster. And they would play other Jalen Williams, number 2 Jalen Williams. They would play him at the big spots all the time, but he's like a charge taker. And I think will be a nice player, but he's just like a charge taker, and they don't have paint protection. And if you have this dude who's going to give you everything that you needed in one guy, I just think he's the perfect complement to that team. He can feast off of just like working off next to Shea and working next to Giddey. And like some of those Lou Dort shots get redistributed to Chet. Like all of a sudden now those guys are propping him up. Like from a stylistic standpoint, he's like a perfect fit, I think, next to Giddey and next to Shea. So it's possible it goes the other way too, where those guys just make him look awesome.
Before you move on to the next award, I actually, not to put him on the spot, I would love to hear Andrew's take if he's available on Chet.
We keep trying to drag him out. I don't think he's coming out. So,
well, we'll see if he responds. I just wonder with Chet, as far as his messaging, and you guys might have seen some of this just in the media, like what is, as it relates to being the guy who took such a tough blow last year, had his entire career, derailed or backtracked by a year. And now I could see him, I don't know him at all, but I could see the mentality being, all right, 1 year and everybody forgot about me. It's all about Victor. Like, does he have that? Like, let me go remind people who I am type thing. Do you guys have any insight there?
It seems like it. I did a story on him in Summer League, and I went to a couple of his availabilities and mostly just like watched the way he played at Summer League. He had 14 blocks in 4 games, and they were like high flying, challenging people at the rim. For some reason, in the Utah version of that Summer League, like the Jazz players kept trying to dunk on him. He stopped like 4 or 5 dunks in like a 1-2 game stretch. And it just seemed like he was playing very unconcerned about his foot or his injury, which to me is a sign. And 2, like, to more of what you're talking about, and Andrew is hopping in. He does seems to have a mind. Like he's telling Damian Lillard after blocking him, you're too small. Like that's not, your normal, wallflower rookie or second year player.
Andrew, what say you? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I think obviously like the most interesting things about Chet for this team is just the kind of target that he can be for these passers. This team is full of passers. Like the entire starting lineup outside of Lou Dort are above average passers. And so they never really had a target like this. And then just the overall attitude of Chet is something they really didn't have. I think all these guys are super confident, but Chet just takes everything to a different level. Everything feels personal. And like the moment that everything flipped for Chet was whenever that headbutt happened. And obviously he talked about it in a tweet afterwards, but his game took off. I'm calling it Chet fuel, is what I'm calling it.
Hey,
whenever Chet has something happen where he feels like maybe he's disrespected, or I honestly think that the Wembanyama stuff is the best thing for him, because I think he takes it personally when people tweet out that like, oh, Wembanyama had the nutmeg last night. Oh my gosh, everybody's freaking out about it. I think it absolutely sends him into a tizzy, and like he just wants to just absolutely be better than him. So I think
if
all
the
of this
Thunder
stuff is really good.
Do you think they would deactivate his Twitter account, or do you think overall the organization is like, you know what, we do need this?
I think you know the answer to that, Slater.
Yeah.
Are you implying that the Thunder would ever consider an element of control?
I didn't say they would. I just meant if they had the opportunity, if they were given the chance, what would their preference be? That was my only question.
Yeah, I think you know. I think
what do you mean?
because
Sam
you're
Presti's
asking,
like the most out there personality there is. All his business in the streets. What are you talking about?
I could see him being like, you know what, we need a little of this. The funny thing, like, we're joking, but like
they had Russell Westbrook. It wasn't like he was a shrinking violet.
Kendrick Perkins, that was an active social media user. I can remember some famous.
I mean, they did have Enes Kanter when he was saying whatever he wanted, and they were genuinely worried that they were in actual physical violent danger because of his politics.
Steven Adams, who certainly never tweeted crazy things, but put him in front of a microphone, and they weren't controlling the narrative on that one.
Right.
Well, yeah. I will. I'm going to rein us back in because this is my podcast now. Sam is officially hungry. I mean, I just got a message from Steven Ginsburg, who runs the Athletic.
Oh Lord, now we're getting personal.
This is getting wild. Why did we give him these responsibilities?
This is really irresponsible. He just slacked me for some reason. I don't know why we even gave a podcast to Sam in the first place. So it's like I can't believe he sent that. Sam, I'm really sorry.
That hurts.
That's really upsetting. Right. But anyway, let's run around. One thing I want to add before we move on to the next award, which Slater mentions the body types. Chet's got the injury history. They got to play 65 games now. And so if we're talking about like, can Scoot come in there? Can Brandon Miller come in there? If Chet, if they're like really they're cautious with his body, he gets a little banged up and they're like, you're not going to play. And he ends up playing 62. And when Wembanyama plays 62 and all of a sudden Scoot played 75, maybe that's your best candidate. Maybe that's the guy. We are going to talk most valuable player in 1 second. But before we do, let's take a quick break. And you know what? Maybe I should be fired because before I went to the break, I didn't actually take your guys' picks on Rookie of the Year. Sam,
I thought you said we were circling back. All right, we're doing picks.
Yeah, we're circling back. Just give me your pick. Your
Rookie of the year.
One name.
God, this is for you, Chet. I've got the best young big man in the game, Victor Wembanyama.
I'll take Chet.
I'm gonna take Chet too. It's more fun to take Chet. It's just
they have
fun.
some games early in the season, so we can circle back. We will circle back to this.
Listen, LeBron James called Victor an alien, and then he went and dunked the ball from 17 feet away from the rim as if he was, the guy in Terminator 2 whose arm stretches out. Like,
I covered Thomas Bryant, and a running joke throughout the entire Wizards organization when I covered Thomas Bryant was his facial expressions, that he had the funniest facial expressions while on the court of anybody in the league. So it was amazing as someone who covered Thomas Bryant and knows how animated of a personality he is. And he has a great sense of humor.
You know, how
funny, animated.
Greg? They now have the player who I covered, whose facial expressions were a running joke. His name is Jordan Poole. He
There
had
you go.
41 last night. And not to pivot us to the MVP conversation, but maybe we can rope Jordan Poole into that. No, just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah. No, seeing Thomas Bryant go viral because the NBA world picks up on his reaction to Victor Wembanyama, like Space Jam dunking on him from the free throw line, was incredible.